This video focuses on understanding the different perspectives and viewpoints that in turn shape historical decisions. It's called Smoot Hawley, a bad decision made for all the right reasons. Tariffs on duties and imported goods have long been a divisive and controversial issue in American politics. Alexander Hamilton recommended tariffs high enough to protect industries in 1791, but the idea was rejected by Congress, which was largely agrarian. Tariffs were again a central part of Henry Clay's early 19th century American system, where he was expected to use tariffs to raise revenue to provide for internal improvements. In fact, the tariff of 1832 nearly led to bloodshed between the federal government and the state of California. And it's against these discussions of tariffs we look at American agriculture in the early 1900s. The Industrial Revolution meant a significant increase in productivity in agricultural production, which in turn affected employment and put downward pressure on agricultural prices. Prices had been depressed since the end of World War I, and farmers now were clamoring for relief. Enter Herbert Hoover. He was a Republican nominee for president in 1928 and was known for his relief work in World War I and served as Commerce Secretary in the Harding administration. In his campaign for the 1928 nomination, he pledged to support tariffs for agriculture. Meanwhile, over in Congress, pressure for higher tariffs was mounting, led by Senator Reed Smoot, a Republican from Utah. Smoot, who was appointed to the Senate Finance Committee in 1908, was an expert on tariff issues, mastering the complex and arcane schedules of the different goods and items. He was particularly concerned about sugar and wool, which were two major exports for his home state of Utah. Democrats took control of both houses in 1912. They lowered tariffs, and Smoot made it a point to change that after the election of 1928. In the meantime, pressure for some form of economic action was growing. There was the calamitous stock crash of 1929, and you'll see below the headline that this activity was directly tied to the issue of farmers and tariffs. Meanwhile, unemployment soared. Negotiations of the Smoot-Hawley tariff took several years, which is unfortunate because as the debate went on, the bill got bigger and bigger and bigger as members of the House and Senate traded votes to protect various industries from their respective states, which was significant now that employment was growing and every industry was looking for help. No one from business liked the bill. Henry Ford spent an evening at the White House trying to get Hoover to stop it. Over 1,000 economists signed an open letter asking for the president's veto. According to stories, there was an executive from J.P. Morgan who said he almost went down on his knees to beg Herbert Hoover to veto what he called this asinine tariff. This was Hoover's dilemma. How does he strike a balance on trade and try to keep the party together? How does he make everyone happy? In the end, he approved the measure, and in the speech he gave at the signing ceremony, he said, quote, "Platform promises must not be empty gestures." He later went on to say that the bill, quote, "contains many compromises between sectional interests and between different industries. No tariff bill has ever been enacted or ever will be enacted under the present system that will be perfect." So in the end, everybody got something. Hoover kept his promise. Smoot protected his farmers in the home state of Utah. Farmers throughout the country got protection, and an increasingly agitated public felt that someone was taking action to help them. But it didn't work. The business leaders and the economists were right. The depression intensified, unemployment skyrocketed. Smoot Hawley was, in Hoover's words, a compromise. It was a campaign pledge that he promised to keep. But in keeping that pledge, he had to agree to some things that he knew could be dangerous to the economy. So the question is, when does compromise become unethical? Is it ethical to keep a campaign promise for one group when it risks harming another? If we put it in today's context and see some of the issues that are playing out today in Congress, do we or should we accept a border wall to protect DACA children? Do we or should we accept tax breaks for business to get tax breaks for ourselves? Do we or should we levy tariffs on steel and aluminum to help workers in that sector, even if it risks retaliation against workers in other sectors? This is the challenge in seeking compromise. Different choices have to be made, which is why oftentimes in politics and policy, you can make a bad decision for all the right reasons. Thank you.